Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruchachudash, double honors unto the elders and apostles of great millstone of all well. And shalom to the 144,000 elect men of the nation of Israel and the rest of the elect destined to be saved. I'm the brother Caleb from the GMS UK London Forecasters Camp, back with another lesson to help edify those of which I spoke of. I always like to open by saying that we are the real Hebrew Israelites. And the real Israelites are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, West Indians, West Africans predominantly. But you will find Israelites that do look like the other nations, because we as a people have been scattered among all the nations to our various captivities. But if your seed line by your forefathers goes back to the man in the Bible that was named Israel, then you too are an Israelite, no matter what you may look like, because Numbers chapter 1 and the 18th verse states that your nationality is determined by the lineage of your forefathers. So I was just going to do a quick lesson here, going into a subject that came up yesterday after camp. I had a little bit of a meeting with some of the brothers, and one of the topics that came up was that younger brothers in the faith were encouraged to pick up their Bibles and to study a bit more, which is, to be expected. That's something that's to be expected. You're not going to come in to this truth hitting the ground running perfectly. There's areas that are going to need to be developed and worked on. But that it really is a very interesting and important point, and a point that I learned when I was a little bit younger and first coming in. Not to say that I'm of any great age or anything. I'm still a young man in this faith myself. But it's very important to actually be in the habit of reading the scriptures, because that helps you to kind of have a comprehensive understanding of what's going on scripturally, not just in terms of knowing a few precepts on this topic or that topic, but generally having a good overview of the chronicles, if you will, the chronology of, or the timeline of events. Understanding what prophet prophesied in which kingdom. For example, a young man might be asked, okay, in what kingdom did Daniel prophesy? And sometimes young brothers might not know the answer to that, or in what kingdom did or what was the chronological order of the kingdoms. Brothers might not know, younger brothers might not know that, but if you're studying the scriptures, you should know that. And again, we're not always going to hit the ground running 100%. There's things that are going to have to be worked on and addressed as we go along. Now, in light of that, I was just watching the Apostles' weekly main camp that they put up yesterday. And as I was listening along, the Spirit just mentioned in my ear, do you remember when you was a child, you used to read read-along storybooks? I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. So I just pulled up an image on the screen, because when I was a child, this was back in the days when tape cassettes were still very popular. I mean, tape cassettes have become an obsolete thing in today's world, because people don't use tapes anymore. They use MP3s, and prior to that, they had used compact discs. So, when I was a little boy, tape decks were the in thing. Vinyls and tape decks and CDs came in a little bit later. But when I was a small child, my mum would buy me certain books, stories that I'd enjoy. And what I would do, or what she would have me do, is, this is when I was learning to read. She would have me sit down, and she'd put the book in front of me, and she'd put the tape cassette in the tape player, the stereo, and you press play, and basically what happens is you'd have a narrator, and he'd say, this is the story of, let's look what's on the screen here. I just pulled up a few examples, like you got Star Wars there, Walt Disney 101 Dalmatians, or Little Red Riding Hood. Let's use Star Wars. So you'd open the first page, and you press play on the tape, and it would say turn to page 1. and then it would tell you the story, and it would narrate the words that were written on the page, and it would say, like, chapter 1, and it would tell you what's going on. And usually these stories would be, illustrated with bright colors, so children would be attracted to it, such as this. You can see the bright colors and the large characters, very appealing to young children. But the point of the matter is that it would have you read along the story as the narrator was explaining the words. The reader was reading the words. The narrator was reading the words, forgive me. So what it would encourage you to do is you'd start to become familiar with those words, and you'd start to be able to read the story. Very good learning tool, very effective, and it's something that I remember to this day. Now, why am I bringing that up? I'm bringing that up because as I was listening to the apostles, I said something that I used to do when I was young and coming in, still young, but when I was a lot younger, is that I would read along with the lessons that I was listening to. So let's say I'm listening to the apostles' main camp. Where was we at? I knocked the YouTube off, but let's say I was listening to the apostles when, say, the apostles are calling for precepts, or when they're reading out precepts. I would follow along with my handheld Bible and find those precepts too. And that's another thing, brothers being in the habit of pulling precepts. Like, obviously this is, if you're in a camp, if a brother calls for a precept, don't rely on someone else to get it. You should be looking for it too. And even if you don't get there first, it's good to go to these things, because there's a scripture I want to actually bring out. Bear me a second. I started this lesson before I had all my ducks in order. I need to find my equipment. Hold on. Oh, here we are. Just find it. So, like, I'm just getting my other device off the charger, because I use two devices when I'm doing lessons and stuff. Hold on. There's a precept I want to bring out, which is quite important, which, oftentimes there's many layers to precepts. The Bible is a very deep book. So you can have the surface level meaning to something, but there's often a deeper subtext to something. Let me pull this precept. I'm going to present it in a way which should make brothers think. Let me get it. Hang on, hold on. Yeah, this is the one I want. I've got it on deck. Yeah, these are good precepts. I'm going to pull these out. All right, hold on a second. So the first precept I'm going to pull out is 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 15. It says, "Study to show thyself approved unto the Most High God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth." Let's read that again. 2 Timothy 2 verse 15 says, "Study to show thyself approved unto the Most High God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth." So that's something that will happen when you're in the habit of studying the scriptures. And I encourage brothers to read along with their physical Bibles. Another good thing about using a physical Bible when you're studying is that when you're actually turning the pages, you're becoming intimately acquainted with the book in a way that you don't really get when you're just using a device. Now, I know for convenience's sake, sometimes brothers will use their phones or a tablet or whatever, which is fine. But as a young brother, when I say young, I mean just coming in, you really want to be getting into the habit of actually using a physical Bible, because again, it helps you in your mind to be able to pinpoint and understand where you are in the scriptures, or where your mind's being taken to in the scriptures, and obviously what precepts link with what, because when you're doing it on a tablet or a phone, it's kind of like a synthetic thing. I don't know how to explain it well. It's like, because you're not actually searching through the pages, you oftentimes you're using a word search function, which again is good, and learn certain things, but sometimes you want to be able to know where a precept is without having to word search it, and by actually looking in a physical Bible, when you're going to these precepts physically, in your mind you're making sort of like a mental map of where certain precepts lie within the scriptures. Like a brother may say a certain thing, you think, oh, hang on, yeah, he's in the book of Ezekiel, or yeah, that's in the book of Daniel, or book of Obadiah. You kind of tend to pinpoint things a bit more because you're not relying on the technology to do it for you, essentially. Now, another precept I want to bring out is Sirach 34. Start about verse 10. Start verse 9. Sirach 34 and verse 9, it says, "A man that hath travelled knoweth many things, and he that hath much experience will declare wisdom." Now, on a surface level, this can apply to a man that has physically travelled to many places, been to a few cities, travelled to a few different countries, experienced different, cultures, seen other nations in their elements. Maybe they've spent time in nature and they've observed wildlife and, things of that fashion. That can apply to that on one level, but I'm going to get a bit deeper with this, right? The deeper aspect of this is that there's different ways in which you can travel. Not all traveling has to be done with your physical body. That might blow a lot of people's minds. But let me break it down for you, right? You can actually travel in your mind. And the way you travel in your mind is by utilizing your mind. For example, you could sit in your room, right, and not go out for 2 weeks. But you could be traveling your mind. Let's say you're studying physics or chemistry or even music or mathematics. Let's say you deeply immerse yourself in one of those subjects, and you really get into the core elements of, okay, this is how these principles work. That's how that works. That's how that functions. This cause creates that effect. You're actually traveling within your mind and you're gaining experience. Or likewise, you might read a lot. Someone could study geography or geology, or many other topics, right? And they might not have actually gone to the particular place in the geography book, but they know a lot about the region because they've studied a lot about it. So they have traveled within their mind and they've gained a level of knowledge, wisdom, and experience. Now, I'm not saying that will supersede someone who has the physical experience of directly going to a place, but it can be very beneficial and it can give you a lot of wisdom. Why am I talking about this? The reason why I'm talking about this is because when you are reading along, going back to the concept of the read along storybooks with the tape cassettes and stuff, when you're reading along to a brother's lesson, right, and you yourself are also traveling to the precepts that are being mentioned or the precepts that are being called, you're actually traveling through the scriptures. I'll say that again. When you're going to certain precepts and you're following along, you're actually traveling to those precepts along with the reader. And in doing so, you're gaining much experience. Because although you might not be the one who pulls the precept, let's say you're in a camp setting, let's say there's 7 of you, the elder or the speaker calls for a precept, and 2 other brothers look for the precept, and you're just standing there with your hands in your pockets, you're not doing anything. You're not following the journey. You're not engaging in that travel. So it's a good thing to do. Even if you're not the first person to pull the precept, go to the precept as well. Because in doing so, you're traveling to that place. And when you travel to that place, you're like, okay, I know where this is. Oh, this is a little bit of a landmark. I'll make a mental memory so I can create a mental map of, okay, this is where the kind of spirit's flowing. And later on down the line, that experience becomes quite valuable, because you then become more in tune with what the reader is saying. And then you'll be on point to where you don't even need to wait for the speaker to call for a precept. You can see where the spirit is flowing. You're like, you know what, man, I'm going to go there before he even gets there. So I've got this precept on deck so that before he even calls for it, I'm ready to bring it out. And that in turn helps the spirit move better, because this is a team effort. You know, when we're in a camp, it's a team effort. It's not, oh, well, yeah, I'll just stand there with my hands in my pockets and turn up and that's enough. No, you know, the scriptures say we can never do enough to please the Lord, you know. Even when you have done all, you know, we should still say we are unprofitable servants. So the thing is to get the spirit to flow better, to get things to move better, we need to be in tune, in harmony, in concord, I should say concord or concordance with what's actually going on. And also when you're in the spirit like that, it prevents the more you stay in the spirit, the more you're preventing unnecessary thoughts coming to you, because you don't want to be turning up to camp and standing there and, you know, doing that 1,000-yard stare and thinking about all kind of other madness and not being in the spirit. You don't want to be doing that, man. That's not really productive on any level. So there's more to this precept. Let's get some meat off the bone, more meat off the bone. And also, let me bring this up. There was an album by the group Jamiroquai. I think it came out in 1997. And the album was called Traveling Without Moving. And that's the album that had the songs, what is it, Virtual Insanity, Cosmic Girl, All Right. A lot of their big songs were on that album. I believe it was the third studio album. It came out around 1997. But the album was called Traveling Without Moving. And that title for that album is the concept that I'm trying to convey. Oftentimes we are traveling without moving, you know, and being in the habit of doing that can be a great, can give you great experience. Again, you could be sitting there reading a book, you know, and you're traveling to certain concepts, certain topics, certain ideas, you know. It doesn't have to be the Bible, you know. You could be reading a non-fiction book and be learning a lot. You know, you're traveling without moving when you do that. So now, don't get it twisted. You know, people might say, "Oh, well, yeah, but in the book of Ecclesiastes, King Solomon said that, you know, much studying is a wearing of the flesh, and, you know, be admonished of the making of many books." Yes, that's true, but I'm talking about within balance. You know, you can get exhausted by mountain climbing. Likewise, you could get exhausted by too much study, but everything should be done in balance, you know. And when it's done in balance, it's beneficial for us. You know, the benefits outweigh the negatives, because the negative of not studying, not traveling, you know, be it physically or mentally, is you're going to stay ignorant, man. And you don't want to be staying ignorant, because the Most High ain't dealing with ignorance, you know. The Most High is a power that loves wisdom, you know, and rewards wisdom. Anyway, let's follow on with this. Sirach 34 verse 10. He that have no experience knoweth little, but he that have travelled is full of prudence. Yeah. Let me read these two verses again. 34 verse 9 again. A man that have travelled knoweth many things, and he that have much experience will declare wisdom. He that have no experience knoweth little, but he that hath travelled is full of prudence. Again, travelling along with the precepts, reading along. You know, you could be sitting there listening to the Apostles' Camps or another brother's video. When they're pulling out precepts, you go to them too. Follow along, read along, and learn along. And that's the song, you know. There's another precept here. It says, when I travelled, I saw many things, and I understood, and I understand more than I can express. There you go. Those are the three precepts I wanted on that. There's another precept I can pull out. Bear with me while I find it. And you want to be pulling up your Bible more than just once a week. I'll say that, you know. You want to be pulling up your Bible more than once a week. In fact, it should be a daily thing. Just put that out there, man. You know, you're like, this is a sword. Yeah, and if you want to learn to fight, you need to learn how to swing your sword, you know, how to attack, how to defend. If you're only picking up your sword once a week, you're going to be an amateur, and you're not going to be very proficient in it. But if you're using your sword daily, you know, okay, this is how you swing, this is how you block, this is how you parry, this is how you, you know, do X, Y, and Z with the sword, you're going to become very skilled with it. And the scriptures talk about the word of the Lord being sharper than a two-edged sword. You know, so if you're not careful, you cut yourself, you know. So you've got to know how to wield this thing, man. And it takes practice. This is John, not John, Slakia, Acts 17 and 11. This says, start from verse 10. And the brethren immediately sent away Paul and Silas and brought unto Berea, who coming thither went into the synagogue of the Jews. Listen to what it says of these people. These were more noble than those in Thessalonica, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind, and searched the scriptures daily, whether those things were so. Let's read this again. It's powerful, man. Acts 17 and 10. And the brethren immediately sent away Paul and Silas that night unto Berea, who coming thither went into the synagogue of the Jews. These were more noble than those in Thessalonica, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind, and searched the scriptures daily, whether those things were so. So that precept pretty much sums up what I'm talking about. You know, have a readiness of mind to receive the word, and search the scriptures daily, and learn how to travel within your own mind, because in doing so you'll gain much experience. Lord willing, that's been edifying. So with that, giving all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash, double honors unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that will well. Shalom to the 144,000 electmen of the nation of Israel, and the rest of the elect destined to be saved. And Lord willing, I'll catch you on the next lesson. Shalom for now.